Hello, guys. Today we're going to discuss kind of an area of research called self-embodiment and a field of robotics that kind of introduces the concept of how we can embody artificial intelligence models into basically physical machines, and what is necessary for them to be able to kind of navigate these environments. Um, a common question is, does a physical embodiment require uh, the sense of the limitations of its own morphology? And humans, they have their own sense of existing within their body and existing within their environment through touch, through sound, and through other sensory information. Whereas a robot doesn't really understand these movements, doesn't really have these feedback. So, Hugh at Columbia University introduced the mechanism by which a robot could end up basically discerning to some degree their morphology and their own self-image through proprioceptors. And they introduced a 12 degree of freedom reconfigure a leg robot that had basically a data set of over 200,000 unique configurations to basically investigate the relationship between the robotic motion and the robotic morphology. And they used a deep neural network basically comprised of robot signature and the configuration decoder to demonstrate that we could accurately predict robot configurations from proprioceptive signals. So in humans, we have proprioception that can give us the sense of touch, that can feel that can give us the sense of being present within a space because of our feeling of objects around us through these signals. And this kind of gives the question, and then that we can kind of further expand upon that robotic self-modeling and giving information to an AI that can help the robot or the AI or the LLM understand their physical basically embodiment and their own relationship as they move throughout a particular space. So Hugh basically introduced this kind of robot and used these configurations in order to kind of develop a means by which it could navigate its space. And they basically collected data in series of two phases in which they generated 200,000 configurations and were able to basically allow the robot to learn its an image, a self image about its own morphology. So they did this by kind of proposing a novel architecture in which it basically would consist of a signature encoder and a configuration decoder. And so the encoder would basically handle all of the temporal dependencies of the particular representations of where their particular limbs might be. Their limbs, in this case, the robotic limbs. So the decoder had different classifications head, and it would be able to basically specify its own internal representation of how it would move as it continues to be maintained with these different movements. And by using this, they were capable of basically improving and being able to predict the next particular configuration that would be necessary because of that they would build out a world model or a self model in this case of the morphology of basically the internal state that a robot would be within it. And this kind of direction of basically being able to predict where a particular robot may be and what particular structure it may be is kind of the direction where we kind of have to go to, because autoregressive LLMs do not actually have the ability to understand the physical world, because their nature is entirely dependent on the autoregressive predicting the next particular token in a sequence based upon the prior tokens. And this doesn't necessarily create an understanding of the world or about the abstractions and the reasoning connections between disparate things. So that would create how you would do things and how you would feel things. So this kind of area of research where it's kind of assessing how we can embody such a LLM or such a um, deep learning net, where it could basically create its own internal sense of its own body in motion, Such research basically is very interesting, and it can also point to the direction of how we can allow our uh, search for AGI to basically explore things like self awareness and the awareness of the boundaries of the limitations within a particular state space. Well, I appreciate you guys for this paper. And this is part of the AI paper series, in which you basically just cover current papers that have been released. Hope you guys please subscribe. Thank you.